Absolutely huge, if not heartbreaking news coming out for the San Diego Padres amidst the free agency fallout of losing Jurickson Profar. What's going on, everybody? Christian Pedersen here with another episode of Padres Digest. Before we go any further, even though to date every podcast seems to be bad news, eventually there will be good news. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so that we can drop everything right into your feed in real time. You don't have to go searching for the best Padres takes on the internet. All right. Jurickson Profar, he is no longer a San Diego Padre, but on the way out has given some interviews, and there's some quotes both used in the Union Tribune recently, courtesy of Jeff Sanders, and then also in Sports Illustrated that I want to talk to the significance of them, the fallout of them, the hurt of them, the impending bad news of them for all other Padres fans out there. All right, Let's start with this one. We can go here to the quote from Profar that he says, obviously, the Padres have some issues with ownership and all that. It was difficult to go back to San Diego with the offer. There's a lot of parentheses there, but the Braves general manager showed a lot of interest in me, and I loved that. He gave me a lot of confidence to come to a team and to perform. The first sentence really is all that you actually need there. The second and third sentences are just backing up the hurt of the first sentence. But obviously the Padres have some issues with the ownership and all of that. And that is all due to the revelations that have come out in the Shildt-Seidler lawsuit since the beginning of the offseason. And it's really, really hard when you now have an actual former Padre coming out and putting words to it. And Profar has no reason, I think, to be mean in any way, shape, and form to the Padres. He has been nothing but loved by this city and by the players, and he, I think, can tell it honestly. And what the honestness is that this lady right here, Shildt-Seidler, and again, I preface all of this with the Seidler discussion this offseason. We don't know what we don't know. We, as internet bloggers and even as some of the most embedded reporters in the nation, you can't have eternal and omnipotent access to these situations. So sometimes we only know what we know in the contexts of legal briefs. And what we do know, though, is that lady Shildt-Seidler right there has alleged that the brothers of her deceased husband are running the team without Peter Seidler's wishes in mind of wanting to spend and win first, business second. They seem to want to come business first, win second, and not retain the spirit of that. And I think this one strikes the deepest. Of all of the Padres this offseason who have been either linked to free agency or arbitration, there have been different levels of should we, could we, would we. And Profar, though, I think right up at that top level of being somebody who had an all-star season, was somebody worth absolutely keeping and having come back, but also was liked enough very clearly by both players and the fans that bringing him back should have been at all costs. I say that more as a turn of phrase. Obviously, we weren't going to spend $300 or $400 million, but realizing the market cap of Jurickson Profar is $15 million a year, when we were allegedly linked with that kind of spending to the other team, or to Sasaki and to Snell and to some of those other guys listed in the offseason as available free agents. It piques my interest because it makes me think that maybe the Padres weren't as linked into some of those bids and bidding wars as we may have been led to believe. Or maybe there is more truth to Profar just in terms of the money might be there, but the presentation of the ownership's competency, quality, and cohesion should be drawn really directly into question with these results of we lose all of our bids on potential free agents, but also we can't seem to find long-term deals with Arraez or Cease, who they both go to one-year deals. We can't get anything done with Michael King, so he goes to arbitration. We lose out Tanner Scott. We will eventually, I'm assuming, lose out on Ha-Sung Kim. Kyle Higashioka goes. Every little one was like that little sort of death by 1,000 cuts. This one, though, seems like the breaking open of the floodgates, that there is bad news. Now, the Padres might know something that they are not willing to share with all of us, and there might... I want to see this, every episode have a silver lining around this where we can be like, the Padres are letting all of this go so that 2 or 3 guys from the minor leagues can come up. And then once some other big team, like, we're going to go get Paul Skeens because we have the money for, like, I want to really hope that that's the thing, but it seems more and more evident that what Profar is saying on the way out of just, hey, this is a mess, this is not the right situation, is becoming true, which is such a fall for the Padres because they were right there just 2 or 3 years ago. They were a team that, or just even last year, in the wake of Seidler's death, the team that he built was still largely intact, and now it seems that that team is falling apart. Let's continue, though, on the Profar quotes from the article. San Diego will always hold a special place in my heart, he wrote on his Instagram. Thank you to my teammates, coaches, the medical staff, ownership, and everyone else who has been a part of this journey. I will miss the relationships I made on a personal level and the unwavering support you all showed me during my time in San Diego. To the fans, thank you for making me one of your own. The Profar chants echoing throughout Petco Park. It makes me sad reading this because this is what I'm saying on the previous one. He wanted to still be a San Diego Padre. I think there was a lot of interest from him in still being a San Diego Padre. And I this to me all reads as a guy who is, I'm not going to say necessarily entirely heartbroken, because I'm sure he could have come back at some sort of a 3-year, $10,000. Like, I'm sure there was some sort of discount that the Padres had been like, oh yeah, absolutely, we'll take you back. He's not going to do that. He's towards the second half of his career, if not solidly in the second half of his career. Contract year on an all-star. Profar, go get yours, man. After a long journeyman-ish MLB career, you deserve this kind of a contract and a team that wants you at the value that you hold for yourself. So, tip of the cap, and I love Profar for going to go get his, but losing this... All we're just talking about right now is just the off the field implications of this. The on the field implications, as you can see in the stats here, are in almost 600 at bats last season. The Padres lose out on what was supposed to be the flexible glue guy who could hit high in the order, who could hit low in the order, could play second, could play left, could play first, could do anything you needed on the team, all while having decent RBIs, couple of steals, decently low strikeouts. He was an all-star last year, and now he is gone. And the message on the way out the door is, folks, I love you all, but there is a problem at the head of that organization. So what does that mean going forward? Implicitly, it doesn't mean anything X, Y, or Z for the way that the Padres go out and perform tomorrow or the next day or when spring training gets starting or when games actually get going. These words don't mean anything, but I think these words give a good amount of insight into this could be a very long season of attrition where things just slowly fall off and then erode. And like, we can loop back to some of my other videos, and I will shameless plug to make sure you follow so you can get caught up on other takes, opinions, and ideas that we have. But I talked about this about a week ago of, if the Padres ownership is not ready to spend on mid-level guys, and if they have been quoted saying they are opening to trading guys for contract availability and flexibility, a lot of you on Twitter want to be like, oh, that's just for Xander, that's for some of those mid-tier contracts. No, I think that underlying this says there could be an adios to Manny Machado or Fernando Tatis within the next 2 seasons. If Profar is leaving over this amount of money, I don't see them retaining anybody. I see them trying to talk us all as a public into believing that we have to move on from superstars to go back to building up talent and yada, 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 yada. So I am now raising the official panic level this season, and we'll get a graphic made of this from 0.5 to a full 1 out of a 1 to 10 scale in terms of how much you can panic, Padres fans. But there's another bad one. And with the only, you know what, I will try and close out on the silver lining here, and I will say this. If it can come to light and it can get addressed and resolved, lawsuit and ownership, and why, like, if the ownership can look itself in the mirror and say, okay, wow, players are talking about this publicly, maybe we can get this issue resolved in a realistic timeline that doesn't actually lead to the complete crumbling of this franchise, because these Padres are still top 10 power rankings, are still a top 10 payroll, and deserve, and like, we should be in the mix at the very least for the wild card and going to the playoffs. So we're not in the most doom and gloom of situations of all time. And like I said, maybe there's some big move coming down the pike. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section. And as we said, as always, at the top of this video, make sure you subscribe to Padres Digest on YouTube so you can get all your takes, information, and updates all season long. Talk to you guys later.